Welcome to episode 117 of the Red River Horror Podcast, where we're ready to dive into the infected chaos of 28 years later. Tonight, we're sprinting through the deserted streets of 28 days later, where Cillian Murphy's Jim woke up all alone in a hospital in London. Then we'll brace for the brutal sequel 28 weeks later, where Robert Carlyle punches us straight in the gut with his performance. And finally, we're reviewing 28 years later, the brand new chapter for 2025 that's got the horror community already buzzing. Grab your survival gear and stay uninfected. It's gonna be a wild ride on the Red River Horror Podcast.
Welcome to the Red River Horror Podcast, where the channels of fear wind through the shadows of your darkest nightmares. From cursed horror films and bone-chilling tales to whispered interviews and the desolate echoes of abandoned places, we explore every sinister current. Grip your oars tightly and brace for the journey ahead. Now, guiding you through the murky waters, your host, Joe Zakreski, joined by Red River Horror founder, Eddie Cayazzo.
All right, welcome back to the Red River Horror Podcast. It's episode number 117. I'm your host, Joe Zakreski, joined by RedRiverHorror.com founder, Eddie Cayazzo. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Joe, I am uninfected.
You are uninfected, and boy, howdy. You've had quite the experience seeing 28 years later, so...
Let's just say it almost took 28 years, Joe, to get
Yeah. So pretty fascinating. We both were able to get out and see this movie. And I was able to see it in full. You were not.
I was not. No.
Yeah.
And this is a story that could only happen to me. Although maybe back in the day, our friend JH, and this is a story that definitely would have happened to him back then too. But
Probably.
this stage of the game, it's all me, man. I did not get to finish. 28 years later, there was literally 15 minutes left.
And the funny part about that is, for anybody who's seen the movie, as we get later into this episode, it's going to get spoiler heavy towards the ending of 28 years later, because the internet is abuzz with the ending of 28 years later. It's probably going to be considered one of the most controversial or surprising twist endings to a movie in a long time. It really depends on what you think. I think it was, but we're going to find out a little more about Ed's thoughts there later. Kicking into it, I was like thinking about, now this has become a trilogy, and going back to 2007, even thinking that a sequel wasn't necessary, but it worked really well. And it's like one of the most like surprising, 28 days later, loved it. And then like, oh man, they're going to ruin it with a sequel. And then 28 weeks later is actually really good.
And the good thing is this series. So yeah, I guess we'll get in a bit in the later end of the episode. This series as a whole, okay, a third one, great.
Yeah.
A trilogy from this third one, only because, yes, 28 Days Later is such a strong film. So many people are fans of it. When they released the sequel, you could have thought back then, it's just like, oh no, what are they doing? But it was a different movie with a different tone, had a great, not cold open, a great first act, I guess we'll say, of 28 weeks later. So a lot of people, especially then and over time, have looked back on that sequel fondly enough to bring them now, yes, 28 years later. So this is the 28, we'll say. The 28 series has kind of avoided the car crash that a lot of the other horror series has run into over the life cycle of.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, for me, that's a maybe, because the issues I have with 28 years later are what, like, they retcon things from 28 weeks later, where I'm like, wait a minute. So what I liked about, we'll just start from the beginning with 28 days later. One of the things is, like, I remember like just reading about it. I know Danny Boyle never considered it a zombie movie, which is fair because they're not traditional zombies, but it's more or less, the rage virus seems like more zombie, but
it's one in a long line of
Yeah.
like zombie behavior.
Yeah.
Running, biting.
yeah, I mean, it opened up the doors to the zombie revival of the 2000s,
Right.
because it comes out in 2002. How many zombie things start coming out over the next 10 years?
Oh, Joe, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost, It did kick off like a revival, and I actually, if you watch
Yeah.
the Red River Horror podcast, you're going to be able to see the see just how close some of its film series and other things that it has inspired.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you the opening of 28 Days Later and the opening of The
The
Walking
Walking
Dead,
Dead. Yeah.
and they're literally almost shot for shot
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and Walking Dead pulls from all of them, and it's like that's has to be some sort of homage to 28 Days Later because it's such a good opening for an apocalyptic movie. Just waking up in a hospital and being like, what happened? So nice. It's just such a good movie. It put Cillian Murphy on the map, who just does good. Everything he's in is good.
hmm
You know, I mean, Peaky Blinders is a tough one because I have to watch that with subtitles half the time. But that's because they're doing such a good job, I guess, of the Birmingham accent or whatever.
Honestly, some parts of 28 years later, I thought I needed some. I'm like, you know what? I wonder if they have one of those boxes that have
Yeah.
the subtitles or the closed captions on because yeah, I did struggle to understand
Oh
some
yeah.
of the
What's Kick-Ass was landing on thick. What's his name? Aaron
Aaron Taylor
Taylor
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
Yes.
So he lays into that thick.
Um, well, let's, Joe, I thought if it was all right, maybe we kind of bring the viewers on a bit of a ride back just to kind of go over
Sure.
like the 28 days, like how much you and I liked it and how much the people liked it at the time. Like, I don't know now with this much time has passed, just how people realize that it almost did kick off this next wave of zombie film.
Look, I mean, they were angry, they were aggressive, and they moved fast.
Yep.
So, and then you have the remake of Dawn of the Dead, where they're running,
I love
and
that.
you know how much I like the running zombie compared to the slow walking zombie.
Yep, absolutely.
It just freaks me out a little more because, the slow walkers, there's an escape until you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So there's more of a survival factor when they're running. I mean, they're not going to stop.
hmm
So they don't get tired. You're done. So
So a little bit about 28 Days.
yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that it was such an impressive launch, I guess, to what we're now going to be calling a series. 28 Days Later, a financial hit, especially for a film made on a modest budget, and you say modest, produced for about 5 million euro, 8 million US dollars, what they estimate that as
Mhm.
to make that movie. And think about it, like they shut down, looking like it shut down London, right?
Oh yeah.
So in the UK, pulled in 6.1 million euro, while in the US it earned a surprising $45 million dollars. And this is fewer than 1,500 screens that it was on for 28 Days Later.
Oh yeah. I mean, something to remember back then, like when it came out it was a pretty big gap between the UK release and the US release. So there was buzz being built around it online.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the baby days of, you're going into chat rooms and specific websites in 2002. There's no social media space like that.
True.
So it was like whispers and it just got louder and louder. It's like, yo, this like
No
next
one's,
level horror movie from the UK is coming.
no one's sharing a reel in your thing like, whoa, did you see
No.
this? Like how the zombie makeup guy looks?
Yeah. And I was in like my infancy stages of being a cinephile. So like I hear Danny Boyle on there and how much I love Train Spotting. So I'm like, oh my God.
Yep. No, that's right. Production team behind 28 Days Later. Director Danny Boyle brought his kinetic energy from Train Spotting to this post-apocalyptic nightmare. I know Train Spotting was a very effective movie.
Yeah.
If you're, well, I guess we'll leave that there because we could do a whole show on that. Alex Garland, so he penned the screenplay, drew inspiration from Night of the Living Dead by George A. Romero from that series. John Wyndham's The Day of the Triffids. Producer Andrew McDonald was crucial in getting the film made, securing funding from the National Lottery after Universal Pictures passed on this project. They had no idea what they were going to be missing in the whole zombie revolution, man.
That
Universal.
happens. Talk to HBO about passing on The Walking Dead.
Ooh, cash cow. But Christopher Eccleston even took a pay cut to keep things moving. The team's innovative use of digital cameras, led by cinematographer Anthony Dodd Mantle, gave the film its raw, haunting aesthetic. John Murphy's iconic score, including the track In the House, In a Heartbeat, added to the film's unforgettable atmosphere. Because it is something that you think about. That movie is pretty raw. Like, obviously, I watched 28 Days and 28 Weeks
Yeah. Oh, the
Before.
cinematography 28 Days Later is so cool because it's like it's immersive.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in there with them. So
And think about it, Joe. At the time we watched this, because this is a film we watched together.
yeah.
We didn't. I think we both missed its theatrical run, 28 Days Later specifically. But when we did watch it finally in the basement, like you're not talking about HD TVs, you're not talking about surround sound or
Hmm.
anything like that. This is the the square box television. What is
Oh
it?
yeah.
The RT TVs, and just some special features on a DVD
Yeah.
is all. So we did get that raw experience as the filmmaker intended.
Yes, we did, and it was fantastic. It was just fantastic. I remember there was like a lot of things with 28 Days Later. A lot of people calling it overrated too, which I never really understood. I remember it had some haters too, and I really didn't get it. They're like, "Well, it wasn't scary." I'm just like, does it need to be?
Right? No.
It's like the thought, like just the idea of the apocalypse kind of thing going on, but then we learn that it's just isolated to it's the UK and Ireland,
Right.
as we learn in a map, but that's later. But the
Yeah. Well, no, we'll have to get to that because that's one thing upon a rewatch
yeah.
between 28 days and 28 weeks later. Are we to take, and I wanted to ask you this before we started, are we to take 28 years as including 28 weeks? Like it's not a jumping over of,
That's the big question. So like back then there's graphic novels that tie together the in between of 28 days and 28 weeks. So if you're
okay, I
like,
missed those.
well, what happened? There is actual story that's, considered canon that links 28 days to 28 weeks. So if
Okay.
you really want to get into it, that's an option that you have. Um,
I'll have to check that out because I'm not a big, I was never a big graphic novel guy, but I know in the horror space it does.
yeah.
That there are a lot of things that tie different things together. So I will, maybe at least I'll read on a thread. If somebody can put it into a book form, I'll consume it that
And
way.
that's the thing with graphic novels. It is a good way to bridge the gap. I mean, it's a good way to for entertainment.
Yep.
If we were talking Star Wars, then we would just be getting out of fucking control. So I'm not, don't ever talk to me about that, please.
Oh no.
Um,
Between graphic novels, books,
yeah,
expanded universe, what's canon, what's not.
don't.
I remember
I
all that.
don't want it. But for this, because it's simple and we're only three movies in, yeah, there's a nice bridge between 28 days and 28 weeks to
Okay.
really connect the stories together. Because you
So,
don't get Jim in 28 weeks.
right. And that's the thing. I really wanted to talk about the cast of 28 Days Later because
Yeah.
this is, I mean, what performances? So I want to read a little something I compiled. The film's cast was a mix of rising stars, seasoned actors. Cillian Murphy led as Jim, a bicycle courier walking from a coma to a deserted London. I mean, I think it's one of the iconic shots in cinema of all time is him kind of looking back toward the camera and Big Ben's behind him. It's got to be one of the
Yeah,
biggest.
absolutely.
Like I know whether you're a horror fan or not, you know that still image or that scene.
Yeah.
Um, but Cillian Murphy just unbelievable. At the time, Murphy was known more for smaller indie roles, but this performance specifically here put him on the map, later landing him roles like the Scarecrow in Batman Begins. Naomi Harris played Selena, fierce survivor, bringing intensity from her background in British television. Brendan Gleeson delivered the heart as Frank, a cab driver with a tragic arc, while Christopher Eccleston, this mother effer, not the actor, but his character, uh, he brought the chilling complexity as Major West.
Mhm.
Megan Burns rounded out the core group as Hannah, with supporting roles filled by lesser known actors like Alex Palmer, Marvin Campbell, who played the infected.
Yeah.
Cast's grounded performances made the horror feel all too real, and I think so. Like I was, uh, hindsight is 2020, right? Like we know these people are all really great actors and the careers that they've had along the way.
It was a springboard for a lot of them. I mean, it's where, Cillian Murphy definitely that put him on the map.
Yeah,
Now all the way to, he ended up getting the Oscar for Oppenheimer, right?
I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
won bet. Yep.
yeah, because this is what got him on Nolan's radar, and then he started being in all the Christopher Nolan, like a bunch of Christopher Nolan things. Almost was The Dark Knight, like was almost Batman, but they took Christian Bale was selected over him, and then he was a awesome Scarecrow.
He was, and now I'm trying to think. Oh, let that we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah,
Cillian Murphy as the Dark Knight, only because he is one of those actors that, like Christian Bale, he would bulk up and get ripped
Sure.
or be thin and emaciated like Jim in 28 Days
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah, no.
Um,
The guy goes for it.
yep, absolutely. So just some thoughts.
Yeah.
Wanted to kind of bring you up to snuff a little bit. 28 Days Later wasn't just a box office win, but it redefined the zombie genre with this, as we talked about, the fast moving um, zombie, the red eyes, all that stuff. We won't call him zombie, but um, just unreal, man. But it's cool. I actually found it. We had the DVD and it had the alternate ending on it. I don't want to spoil the alternate ending because if you can find it, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
Um, but this film did so well 28 Days Later that it brought us, yes, to a sequel of 28
Yeah.
weeks later.
And just right before we hit 28 weeks later, I just
Mhm.
want to be like 28 Days Later has one of my favorite infections because it's so simple. And I know like probably how I would end up going is the eye drop where
Oh,
looks
yeah.
up, little drop of blood on the eye,
That's so sad, too.
infected. Yeah.
It's so sad.
Like you made it so far, just one little droplet. That's all it takes and you're done.
No, and what was cool about 28 Days Later too was how quickly it all happened.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have to worry about like movies and you know me, I'm not the biggest zombie genre fan. Love the classics, love Night of the Living Dead, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But like we didn't kind of wait for something to happen, someone to be bit, and it's now we have to go on this emotional ride as they change into a zombie. You
Yeah.
know, like or in as we said, Dawn of the Dead, where you're Mekhi Phifer and you're waiting for your zombie baby to be born. Like
Right.
things like that. Like we don't get any of that. It is like a drop of blood, in 28 weeks later, a kiss,
It's purely like simply viral
boom,
by fluid. So,
and it's immediate.
yep,
It's over.
that's it.
So
That's it. So don't go freeing chimps from cages in labs.
no.
I know it's sad,
Yes.
but don't let them out.
We don't like animal testing, but this and Joe, that's another thing too. Just masterful filmmaking by Danny Boyle, writing by Alex Garland. Like this is a thing that's very much just like, oh my gosh, I feel for the animals, just like I do too. But here's the other side of it.
Yeah,
Um, as soon as they open the cage and the one, rage virus infected monkey runs out, it's all over for the UK.
that's it.
It's done.
You gone.
Yep.
You gone. But luckily, Jim survives. We find him in that cottage. They got the hopeful of the rescue by the end, and then, you know, thought that was just perfectly fine because
Yep.
then it's like, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. It's a perfect ending if there's no sequel, and then, but we got one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a surprise. I honestly thought 28 weeks later was going to be dumb, but it might be fun. And it turned out to be way more than I anticipated.
So you enjoyed 28 weeks later,
Yeah,
even because I feel like 28 days holds a special place in your heart.
definitely.
So 28 weeks, its sequel.
It was good.
Okay. All right.
So here's the thing. So 28 weeks later, it makes sense. All right. So the survivors, they're on mainland Europe, maybe in the US, they're like spread out,
Mm-hmm.
refugees basically.
Yeah.
28 weeks has passed, and what we know is that the virus, the infected, die.
Yes.
They starve to death.
Mhm.
You know,
It took only, I think, 5 days too.
something like actual like human.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They're not undead. They are still human beings infected with the rage virus. Therefore, if you don't eat or drink water, you starve to death.
Right.
So that's what happened.
And there's no people to eat because everybody's either infected or
We're gone.
gone.
Yeah. So I thought that was really clever. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. And then I'm not gonna like, kiss its rear end the same way I just did with 28 days later. But I thought that idea was really good and separated it from the general zombie space, that it's not the undead the dead can't die.
Mm-hmm.
No, they die. And then, so now we're bringing it back in, and it's a good trope. Kids are stupid.
Right.
So we take it from, hey, sometimes people don't do their due diligence before doing things like releasing chimps from a lab.
Right.
And then now we have kids are stupid. So then they go looking for was their mom,
Their mom. Yep.
which I was talking about this before I saw 28 years later, and I was like, yeah, no, that's there would be kids that would like that possibility, that scenario is just as possible as going out and looking for, freeing monkeys or
Yes.
chimps, you know. So I get it. It doesn't, it's not as great, like it's not groundbreaking because it's a follow-up.
It is okay. So like I didn't when I watched 28 weeks later, I didn't find it as fondly as I did when we watched it in real time, like
Okay.
at the time. I get it. It's a sequel. It's bigger budget. A lot of stars in it before they were stars.
Yeah.
Pretty wild,
Yeah.
actually. Um, but it kind of had that. I was glad for the exposition. I was glad that it kind of continued the story. We knew what had happened. It had said in the beginning, and as we go out, like, here's how many days it took for the UK to fall. Here's how many days it took for the rage virus people to die. Here's like everything quarantined, and now we are, in fact, 28 weeks later. And it was more action packed. I mean, the open, I think, has got to be one of the classic openings in all sequel history. I'm not gonna say cinema history, but sequel like that. That's
Yeah.
a pretty charged opening, pretty well shot. Uh, like welcoming us back to the world of
Yeah.
28 days later.
Remember? Yeah.
But it was then it kind of turned into more of an action film where the military has everything locked down. I freaking love Idris Elba.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
he's just one of my
And
favorite.
what's funny is that like you say you love Idris Elba and like you've never watched The Wire.
I've never watched his master like work,
Yeah,
like
like
his
that or Luther.
no
Like
all the stuff that Idris Elba's known for.
yeah.
I've seen him more in the horror space and then some.
Yeah,
And
no,
yeah,
he's the man.
but 28 weeks later, going back to watch it, it felt a little more predictable, even though yes, I had seen it before. It felt like a little more predictable.
It's 100% predictable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I didn't connect with it as much this time as I did when we watched it the first
Okay.
time.
I mean, maybe that's where I'm coming off of because I didn't do any. I've seen it three times.
Hmm.
But I didn't feel a need to watch it again. That's just me. I was like, yeah, I could, but I'm like, I want to leave it where it is in my head.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to have to once we start talking about 28 years because I like the 20, what I like about 20 weeks. Yeah, it might be predictable, but it's a fun ride. You know,
Yes.
it's it makes sense and has a very good ending.
Yes, it does. The action, the acting, everything about 28 weeks later
Yeah.
it is like the
Yeah.
film is great.
Does it have a lot of depth? No, but it doesn't need to.
No.
It's the idea is like, all right, these things they die out. We're gonna repopulate. It's not, they did it at the wrong time. They should have waited longer. And then, next thing you know, now you got the rage viruses back and it's headed out to mainland Europe by the end.
Yes. Yes, it is. So that brings us to well, I just want to say just the box office 28 weeks later.
Yeah.
Solid hit grossed 64.2 million worldwide against a $15 million budget. That's pretty amazing.
It works.
People wanted this movie.
And I bet like even for that time it did even better like for home video sales too.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
like
so it's pretty
yeah.
streamed.
That's a whole different box of worms like when you look into the movie making industry of like, you could take a loss because you would make up for it in DVD sales and now that's
Right.
but that's also why we're going to end up getting gouged on streaming prices. So maybe we'll have to all revert back to physical media. I don't know.
Well, I'm a huge physical media fan, and I'm going to
Yeah.
bring in our friend Steve Feast
Yeah.
in for that because I've gotten quite a like just a small collection going that I'm a little
Yeah.
bit proud of. Not nearly as vast as some of the other YouTube channels we've seen.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the physical media thing, and I have had need for it
Okay.
because these things do go away.
They do.
So we'll get more into that in another episode, but I think physical media is important. It actually now, as we get into 28 years later, I might be looking for a pack if they release one of a 28 days, 28 weeks, and 28 years.
Okay.
Fully knowing what's to come, that wouldn't be the complete collection, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. So we can do. I'm all excited about physical media,
Okay.
but let's see. 9.8 million debut weekend, landing second behind Spider-Man 3, which was terrible. Domestically, pulled in 28.6 million, 35.6 million from international markets, and the film's financial success paired with a 72% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes proved it was a worthy sequel, though some felt it lacked the original's emotional depth. Now, I agree with that, but I also this was not the same team 28 weeks later that made 28 days later. Like Danny Boyle, masterful filmmaker,
Yep.
unbelievable director. Yes, the cinematography extremely important. Alex Garland's writing. This is not the same team who did 28 weeks. So now, if you stack these two up, 28 weeks is on the much better end of the spectrum as far as good sequels go
Sure.
compared to the rest of the sequels in the space.
It was a keep it simple, stupid method.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did. They didn't try and overdo it. It was that's the way I look at it. They kept it simple, didn't try and like expand on it. That it was just like, oh, it's the same universe. It's
You know?
that's it. Very cut and dry. Think it's gone. Virus isn't gone.
No. No, and I just want to give them credit. 28 Weeks, directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, who co-wrote the screenplay with Rowan Joffe, Enrique Lopez Levine, and Jesus Almo. 28 weeks later, shifted the tone to more action-packed thriller. Danny Boyle, the director of the first film, although did stay on as an executive producer. So notice there the 28 days and 28 weeks has two very different tones. And Joe, I will let you introduce us to where we are today.
Yeah, and now we're at 28 years later, which I was very curious how this was going to work. And this also is a return of Danny Boyle, correct? Like taking and Alex Garland, I believe. Or
Oh yeah,
yeah.
same
I was
team.
going to say same team from the originals coming
Yes,
back.
sir.
And
Danny Boyle, Alex Garland.
yeah, right behind me.
It's
So
we're not used to props, and
no, we're not.
And I'm going to mention this. I'm going to mention this 2 episodes in a row following our interview. But Jeffrey Reddick was very impressed with the set. I feel damn good about that.
You should. You put in a lot of work. Jeffrey gave you some love, so
Yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Take it. Good job. No, so 28 years later, something where I didn't think that this would happen, but I'm not surprised that it did. I'm surprised in the direction that it's going for sure, and there is so much research that I need to do personally that I just to try and figure out when I talk about retconning, it's almost as if 28 weeks didn't really happen. So
Okay.
to add some insight, now we're about to, if you have not seen it, this is where we're going to get a little spoiler heavy in our conversation. If you have seen it, please join along and let me know your thoughts. So now instead we have the infected not only surviving but thriving and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is similar to like in George A. Romero's, Dead series. They do evolve.
Right.
That is part of it. So much so by the time that you get to Land of the Dead, they are almost completely, intelligence is returning. Like they learn how to, the one learns how to use a gun.
Right.
So, okay. So in this one, we have some that have a bit of a weight problem, which confused me.
That's yes, that we saw some heavy rage virus sufferers.
So just to dig in, I have a lot of issues with the infected. That's probably my biggest downside to the film as a whole. But it makes sense in kind of the way that the story's being told. I like, we've got this simple village and they use the causeway to cross. And it's like, okay, we get, Aaron Taylor Johnson and then what's his character? I can't remember his character's name. What's his character's name?
Jamie.
That's it. Jamie.
Yep.
And then his son Spike.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, Alfie Williams as Spike.
Yeah.
Dude, give that kid an award.
Yeah, that
oh
young
my
guy.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Like, because he had all the innocence of someone being, and we'll get into a little bit into the story. He had the innocence of like that kid who's about to embark on something huge. He had the right respect for the moment.
Yeah.
You could tell he was terrified and then not, and then scared, and then not, I mean, then emotional. Oh my gosh, that hell of a job,
So
Alfie Williams.
yeah, Alfie, give him a lot of credit because that's probably the best storyline is like is the innocence lost.
Yeah.
You know, everything that he sees is good. Like, he still has that childlike wonder and all that, hope, optimism, and all that gets taken away from him throughout the
Yeah.
movie. So
Yeah. It is. It's just like the more he experiences it, like the world
yeah,
around him.
and not just in the sense of how terrifying the infected are, but in his personal life,
Hmm.
the man he idolizes, seeing the other sides of his father.
Yep.
Um, but that's debatable, because his mom is an issue. So that's a
He-
big key driving point. It's like, what's wrong with her? So
And then Joe, just before
we'll,
we go any further,
yeah,
how much do you want to spoil? Should we just go whole hog? I guess we're going to give away the ending.
we're giving away the ending, so we might
Okay.
as well go whole hog.
All right, we're going to go whole hog. So right now, I think we did a good job explaining 28 days and 28 weeks
Yeah.
and keeping it clean. Just know that in 3, 2, 1, we're going to spoil 28 years later for you folks. So I'd go back and watch it, hopefully in a theater with power.
Yeah.
If you want to move forward from here.
Yeah. No, I have to watch it again, and
Mhm.
I'm going to because there's like, want to break it down and shout out to my buddy Tom, who you'll meet soon. He was taking notes. So I should have been like, Tom, give me your notepad.
That's yeah.
Yeah. So, but there was just like really good I love the opening going back to the original infection,
Hmm.
bridging the gap where it's like, okay, yeah, we were able to, like, so 28 weeks later is part of it because, or maybe it doesn't have to be when they're just like, yeah, no, we pushed it back from reaching the mainland. Like, so British Islands and Ireland, because when it shows the map, are all quarantined. You can't go on, you can't come off.
Right.
Those are the rules. It's like, all right, which is a little interesting because like there are all those smaller islands around there, and where they're living, it's like, clearly it's been 28 years and they're not infected,
Hmm.
and we have the technology to give them electricity and food, and there's a lot of things in this movie where I'm like, I don't get it because it doesn't make sense. Like, why are they living like it's in, like, I guess the rules really are that strict that even they can't even airdrop supplies?
Yeah,
Like, what the hell's going on?
and this had a bit of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village feel. So
Yes, it does.
it's
So,
on like they're on their own island. They can literally only leave it when the tide is low, and the thing opens up. So yeah, they did just kind of drop us into that
yeah.
place.
So that there's a lot of questions there.
Hmm.
A lot of questions about the evolution of the infected,
Hmm.
like these ground ones that are fat
Yes.
and just sucking up big worms, but
Yeah.
also like, what the hell is that?
I don't know. It was strange only because of the contrast, even within the
Yeah.
movie, to what are known as alphas.
Then we get the alpha.
So like we're introduced to this like very like obese ground crawling uh, uh virus infected person, and then you get to literally almost in the same jump see the opposite side of the spectrum in these like really strong Jason Momoa looking things called alphas, and they don't just die. Like you can pop one of the obese
Yeah.
infected with one arrow to the neck. You can't do that with alphas.
How do you think they casted that alpha?
I don't know.
They're like, all right, buddy, drop trow because you're going to be doing a lot of running. We need that dong to flop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of floppy dong.
There's a lot of floppy dong. So if you like floppy dong, then you're going to be excited. If you don't,
Don't worry. He knows how to use it, as we learned off screen.
we do. So 28 years later, we start on this island, and then just to give a little bit of the story and take us along here, all of Act One is us being introduced to this island, and Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, him and his dad, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Jamie, he's like it's almost like they're going off to hunt for the first time. They're going off of their secluded island, which is safe, and moving back to the mainland where it's not.
Here's the thing. Were they going to hunt? See, this is where I should have taken notes because after it's like that's what it seems like they're doing. Like he's been training, it's his
Mhm.
first mission. And
Yep.
like, remember, if there's no one's coming to get us if anything happens.
So I guess then, in the traditional sense, no, they did not come back with
Like,
any meat. They did not come back with any food. They just literally went to kill rage virus infected people.
yeah. But it's like if they wanted to get meat, they easily could have because there's just a horde of deer that come running by. I mean, that was fish in a barrel if they really needed meat.
Yeah,
They could have been like, boop, done,
true.
and head back. But
So
no,
it's
that
important to note they leave that they leave that like they're taking Spike on his first hunt. Um, and when they come back, so we meet
yeah,
these obese rage virus infested things, the regular rage virus which we're used to, and then yes, an alpha who follows them
yeah.
back to the island.
He's tall, he's strong, and he's got a hog. So
Yep.
be ready for that.
Uh,
No, I mean so this movie, even the prologue was just really good with the kids watching Teletubbies.
oh man.
Heartbreaking.
Oh man.
And that's where like so I got hooked really quick
Yeah.
because the prologue was like, oh my God. And then the kid just, hiding out in that
Mhm.
vent of the church, like,
Yeah.
his dad being all psychotic, lost his freaking mind.
Yep.
Um,
The dad thought that that was pretty
the
much the
raptor.
rapture
Yeah.
was being infected with the virus. So dad, i.e. the good reverend, he goes down and
Yeah.
is excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if better that than afraid, I don't know.
I
But
felt bad for the kid though. He was very emotional.
yeah.
His dad.
Yeah. So I really like that prologue had me hooked, being like, all right, this is gonna be nice. And then we get to the village, it's like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
interesting. Let's ride this out. Um, Great tension though on that first trip because then
Yeah.
you get the curiosity of what's going on the mainland. Obviously they do have crews that go out, whether they're, foraging, bringing back, supply, whatever they can do.
Mhm.
And then you see the smoke.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you get this curiosity of like who else is out there, what else is out there. And their return. I mean, I'm like on and off with the movie so far, and then when we get to like when they're getting back to the causeways, like we can make it, and they're not quite running, and the alpha's coming at them.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that was a good scene.
That was
That was a
great.
really good scene.
Great opening act,
Yeah,
man. Like as a whole, the whole first
yeah,
quarter to halfway through, that chunk of that movie
yeah.
is insane.
We
It's
have
a
like
great,
such like this exciting father son story,
yeah,
and then that's when things get to unravels when they get back.
yeah.
Which is fine. I'm sure, clearly kid's upset because he sees his dad getting some, but one would argue if the mom's that sick and crazy, is he really doing something that wrong? Because he's just going to do it anyway when she dies. And it's like, yeah, probably.
So that's Isla, played by Jodie Comer.
Yeah.
Let's try and give
Isla.
Isla, I'm sorry. Sorry, man.
I think so. Yeah.
Whew.
Kylo, right?
Yeah, well, that's how we're gonna do it. So if you're right, we're just gonna keep rolling with that.
Yeah.
I just want to try on the podcast now that we beefed up the set
Sure.
and Jeffrey Reddick loves it. I would just want to try and give everybody credit, the
Yeah.
proper
No,
credit. It's
absolutely.
something I've struggled with in our first 115 episodes was giving proper credit where it was due. So
I think you've done a nice job with that. So
thank you.
be kind.
All right. So Jodie Comer plays Isla, and she's the mom, and yes, she's sick.
Something's wrong with her. She stays in bed. She just forgets where she is. Couldn't tell if it's like, is it dementia? Is it, cancer?
So something's messing with
Something
her
else.
head.
Yeah. She's off. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what day it is. Like she's all over the place. So we'll just keep it a long story short. We see Spike sees his dad, acting the fool at the party,
Yeah,
cheating on his mom.
there's a big party for Spike when he comes home from the hunt.
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's embellishing the stories a bit as to what happened.
Yeah.
Everybody's celebrating, including Aaron Taylor
He's
Johnson.
just watching his father, someone he idolized, act like nothing happened, act like they're great heroes. He's drinking too much and flirting and hooking up with another woman.
Yep.
which upsets the young Spike because, he loves his mother, doesn't, sees his dad not, sees his dad's true colors, that he's not infallible, that he's just a man
He's a man.
with flaws.
Mhm.
I think, then he tries to, yeah, I get it. He's just being
It's
very protective of his mother.
it escalates quickly, but
Yeah.
yes, he's being.
But either way, so we find out is that the smoke, someone spills it's his grandfather spills the beans on, like, because he tells him about his time out there and he's really curious about the smoke. And that's where he hears about Ralph Fiennes' character,
Ah,
who is a doctor,
Dr. Ian Kelson.
Dr. Ian Kelson, who this young boy doesn't know. He's never seen a doctor before in his life, heard that all the doctors were gone, knows something's wrong with his mother. So he, finds his clever way to get back onto the mainland to go looking for the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we get reintroduced to the Alpha back out there.
Yeah.
One of the dumbest things that probably should have not been done at all was the pregnant infected.
And the thing is, I could tell, Joe, they really wanted us to feel
No, that was
that
stupid
moment.
and that should not have been done.
So yeah, we find out like it strips away all that's been built up in 28 days later of how these things behave, like the rage virus infected people, how they behave, how they are. Like this totally takes it to another level. And yes, that there's a woman that's pregnant. And it's not just that, like that's, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, of course, but like a rage virus infected woman is pregnant from the Alpha because the Alphas are smarter than the rest.
Right.
It's just weird.
It's very weird. And then the baby's not infected.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing with this baby, they're where we talk about the 28 days taking from other post-apocalyptic things, I think this might be going in the direction of The Last of Us.
Okay.
So that's how the main character,
Maybe
if
Danny
you don't know, you
were
don't
inspired. So let's just say The Last of Us was inspired by 28 Days Later. Some of this stuff in 28 years later could have been inspired by The Last of Us.
Yeah. So, well, definitely the baby being born of an infected, not like it's infected but immune.
Right.
So it's like
now, so we could though say with 28 weeks later.
Yeah. But they're still alive and thrive. They're alive, thriving, and evolving. So I don't understand that part where it's like 28 weeks later they die off. So is there something new? Like there's a lot of questions that I have. Like when you're hearing me, any of these gripes I have with it, it's because of how it ends. Of like why I'm not being like writing this off yet is because the ending is very interesting and you have not seen it. You fell apart by the time we get to actually meet Ralph Fiennes.
So yes, let's just once we come off the mainland,
there's not much else to cover. It's you get the Swedish soldier who's a nice little bit of comedy added in.
Yeah,
he doesn't last very long.
No,
it's more interesting watching Spike see like a cell phone and being like told things and be like, oh yeah, you don't know that, and that's why I'm like, well, if they're able to like everywhere else is fine, how are they not dropping 8? But there's there's so much more to it.
All right.
So
let's just say I just want to clarify that the mom and Spike, they leave the island, they go back to the mainland, they battle, they find the Swedish soldier, but I want to just make it clear, yes, they deliver a baby from the infected. But yes, when they find Ralph Fiennes, that's the smoke, that's the fire, all from the beginning that Spike was interested in.
Yep.
That his father didn't. He's just like, it's nothing. That's nothing there. However he said it. But yes, when we get to Ralph Fiennes, like it's they've kind of trekked through the infected mainland again.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his whole adventure. Like gets his mom to Ralph Fiennes. Whatever. I mean, it's all good.
So we see.
We don't need to like really dig into the journey because there's the little thrills, the ups and downs. They make it.
It's the journey's not like Jaws.
No,
not like.
It's like the real question is when they get to the doctor, who's clearly like the way that Spike's been told about him is that he lost his marbles, and that's the question is like how insane is this guy? Well, he's not as insane as you might think. He is, but he isn't.
Yeah.
He rubs his body in iodine.
Yes,
because the virus does not appear to like iodine, or how do the English pronounce it? Iodine.
Yeah. Whatever. The infected don't like it though.
Yeah. So anyway, as we were in the theater, he was just like, they don't like iodine. I'm like, it's iodine. I was like, I swear to God, if I hear aluminium, I'm gonna throw something at the
Alan,
screen.
you've had enough of the Breton.
Yeah. No, which
Um,
is fine.
no, but hey, no, Ralph Fiennes, great actor when he shows up in the movie. So yes,
Yeah.
you alluded to it, Joe. The most important part is coming up. That is the finale. And the finale has been, I didn't get the chance to, but
So where did it stop? Where did it actually stop? You said he just tells Spike that what's wrong with your mother? She has cancer.
correct.
All right.
That's literally. So we
So
I see
some
the skull Christmas tree, which you can see here. That's where Ralph Fiennes is. There's the skull Christmas tree. We see the soldier that died. His skull gets washed, and Spike gets to put it on the tree or whatever. Ralph Fiennes inspects the mom and comes to find just like you're displaying all the things of cancer. So it's just like, oh man, it's like that hurts because I feel for the kid. He's made it so far. We find out what's wrong, and the mom, and then real life.
cut.
Oh,
So like the true last like strip of innocence of Spike thinking that there's hope, like what it is to be hopeless.
mhm.
Yeah. So interesting enough. I mean, the other thing with Ralph Fiennes, he cleans all those bones. He's got all these pillars, a
Mhm.
pyramid of skulls. And he tells Spike, I need you to get to the monologue about him saying, was it memore, mento memore? Remember we die, basically.
I'm sure I did, but Joe, the last thing I remember was you have cancer. Lights off. Like the I'm not going to say
It's going dark.
it literally was. I even said, and people laughed in the theater, Joe. I even said, "All right, so we got a Sopranos ending. There we go."
Yeah, right.
Does the mom live? Does Ralph live? Does everyone die? Who knows?
It would have been funny if that was the actual ending. Like it just did the Sopranos thing.
That was it.
It's just cancer.
So
Yeah. No,
that
so you get like where so Ralph finds his character, this doctor, he has lost a screw or two, but he's not completely off. He knows how to protect himself, and his whole bone structures is like this homage to human. Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Remember, we're all gonna die at some point,
yes, we are.
which is true. That's just gonna
We're all going to
happen
be a skull on that Christmas tree.
at some point. So it's just a fact of life. Young Spike has to learn that the hard way. Someone who he loves the most is going to die any day, any year. I think everyone's been, has had known someone has been impacted by like how
Yes.
horrible cancer is when you know someone who gets that diagnosis. It's gut wrenching. Um, so the poor kid has a baby and his mom's gonna die,
Hmm.
but he doesn't know when.
No.
So
She's still alive. She's losing it a little
you've
more.
got about 15 minutes left of movie here,
Yes.
and you're okay with me telling you the ending
I am
for the sake of our show.
for the sake of only for the Red River Horror
Yeah.
viewers, listeners, readers.
Yeah.
Honestly, the track, I just want to say thank you. The traffic on the site
Yeah.
has never been higher, and it's thanks
That's
to
great.
Stacey Lane Wilson has been writing all the reviews for the big box horror movies. Um, we've stepped it up here with the podcast, and thank you for starting the
Yeah.
podcast during COVID. Like, so I'm just saying, I just want to say thank you because our YouTube channel has really, really come up organically. Like, I'm not paying for clicks here.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. I just want to thank you guys. So for the Red River Horror audience, I will spoil 28 years later for me because this was such a real life twist.
Yeah. We're gonna have to make sure we put a timestamp on this. So it's like, hey, if you want to just get here, you can get here because this is like I've told people about what we're gonna be doing because the movie being cut out, and they're excited to hear how you think it ends because 28 years later, the biggest thing about this movie is one of the is the ending. So you said you're gonna get two takes.
I asked you beforehand if I could get two stabs at it.
You're gonna get two stabs at it.
All right.
So let's go with let's just go for it.
All right. So the first one could be a throwaway, but just a thought. So you mentioned The Last of Us being inspired by 28 Days and how this may have been inspired by Last of Us. Who knows, right? Uh, when 28 Days Later came out, if you see the beginning of that film, which is iconic, does it look a little familiar to you? So I'm going to go out on a limb and
Yeah.
just say that The Walking Dead
Yeah,
took a lot from 28 Days Later.
it did.
Okay. So at the end of the first season, now with The Walking Dead, it's important to note these are, I think Joe calls them edisms. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I never really see things through. I
Hmm.
watched the first season of The Walking Dead, and that's it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened. With the dad from Supernatural and the baseball bat. I don't know any of that. So whatever. At the end of the first season, someone told me what was whispered to Rick with the guy at the Central Command when they finally get to safety at the end of the first season of The Walking Dead. What was whispered in his ear? And he's like, so I'm going to say that we all have the rage virus within us, everybody. And when they die, so if it's from cancer, okay, maybe then they would be reanimated, enraged, and just part of that population again. What do you think? So I'm going to say Spike finds out that everybody's got the rage virus. And it's just a matter of time before it hits.
Okay. No.
Damn.
No, but I mean, we were talking about that before we started recording, like this, like The Walking Dead and 28, like, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't go in that direction.
It was a good guess.
It's not terrible.
Okay. All right. So what I think happens was, and I thought about this a lot, and I tried to stay away as much as I can, in the way that our good friend Joe D does, avoids trailers, avoids everything. So I tried, and I think I succeeded. We are going to find out from Danny Boyle himself
Hmm.
what the ending means. I didn't even watch that. So I think I think that the mom passes away
Hmm.
and Spike is now left on a whole new frontier
Hmm.
to move forward into the mainland. And in a sense, not to go back to The Walking Dead, but then he's going to experience more tribes, more people, more things like this doctor. So let's just
Yeah.
so we go from the island, the
Hmm.
causeway, the mainland. He finally gets to where this fire is and the doctor is, okay? There's a whole nother world past that. Even though we know that Sweden has sent in troops, just like in 28 weeks later with NATO. So the end. Um, I'm going to say that maybe he sticking with the nihilistic world of the 28 universe, I'm going to say that we see his mom pass.
Hmm.
And maybe he's holding her hand, and maybe now it's him strapped with the baby and some bow and arrows on his back, and Ralph Fiennes says, "Go blossom." And then he walks into a devastated world.
All right. That's a good guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's pretty good.
So yes, mom dies in his arms.
Yeah.
He's got the baby.
Uh-huh.
Ralph Fiennes, go find
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, that's pretty close.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
yeah. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's a
I
nice.
can't believe I was actually worried about. I'm like, this is gonna be like what? No, dude.
Yeah. So the things to keep in mind is that when this was filmed,
Mhm.
the second one was filmed in tandem.
Right.
So we have 28 years later, the Bone Temple coming out next January.
The Bone Temple, yes. But I will say I knew that going into that's why I had a feeling.
So when you talk about expanding, other villages and things like that. So something you said that I wasn't thinking about when I was like being annoyed by the supplies
Mhm.
is just like that village where they live has that M. Night Shyamalan's The Village kind of vibe to it.
Yes.
Like they're doing it on purpose that way, which when we get to the end of this is much more likely. And I was not thinking about that at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
So,
you're gonna spoil the ending. Here we go.
So
All
here's
right.
where we get spoiler heavily. So,
Yep.
and your reaction to it. So you're close. So we do get the mother's death.
Okay.
However, she knows how bad the cancer is. She doesn't want to suffer.
Mhm.
So she gets euthanized.
Okay.
And Spike it's a very gets a heartbreaking goodbye, but they get him to relax, and then she,
More nihilistic than I thought, though.
Yeah.
Like I know that Danny Boyle always goes for the gut punch. Always.
yeah.
It's just like that would be tough. That's a tough one. Okay,
So,
got it.
Ralph finds, so they euthanize the mother, and then he burns her, and then hands Spike the skull, and it's
Yeah.
just like find a place for her.
Yeah.
And so he climbs the Tower of Skulls and places her on there.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, with the baby moving on into the world, gets do we get attacked? Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but we'll just get to the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Spike and the baby, as you know, he's in some trouble. He's at a dead end,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire tone of the movie completely shifts. And these guys come popping up over, like he's trying to kill him off, fight him off. It looks like it's going to be in the Spike, and these guys pop up from this wall, and they are wearing very bright early 2000s looking Adidas tracksuits.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, all right, mate, well, if we have a try, and then jump down, and they have these, you know, weapons, and they are doing like parkour type moves, and they're just like slashing and mashing their way. The whole music to the movie changes. And they're doing like kicks and flips and
This is like a Justin Long and Barbarian cut.
yeah,
Like, just what the
yeah.
hell?
Oh yeah. You would not I'm like, if you can't believe you did see the ending, so it's just like and they're just like, all right then, bam, 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 and they're just like fucking shit up. And then it comes back, and like the main guy's got blonde hair, and he's wearing a upside down cross, and it's Jimmy from the prologue.
Huh?
So his story is now connected with Spike's. So I'm like, I'm not going to rate this until I see the second half, because this is
Okay.
clearly all one big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot more coming. I have never seen a movie, maybe Barbarian's the closest it gets, where it just the last 5 minutes of like, this is not the same thing. What the hell just happened?
You just built this world,
Yeah.
this isolated world where people are struggling for supplies. They've got their own code. They've got, but like, this is the universe that's been built up to that point.
Yeah.
Is it like you could cut the tension with a
So
knife when they're coming back on the
now we
causeway?
have the adult version of that little boy from the beginning, and
Uh-huh.
he's got a group, and they're dressed like 2002, you know, tracksuit, bright
So
tracksuits with these long bow like type weapons, and they're just like they got crazy moves, and they're just fucking shit up.
I mean, do they leave Spike intact?
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So what I didn't know is, if you heard in the episode, my phone dropped with like my note about it. So Jimmy, and with this, well, I want to see how well I do off the cuff.
All right, all right.
So, something that we don't know is like there's this guy, a DJ, very famous DJ in England named Jimmy Savile or something like that.
Okay.
But that's how he dressed, the bright track suits. He was very famous. Ultimately, his downfall was that he was basically like, so the way my buddy explained it was like, hey, imagine him being like, I don't know, a Jerry Sandusky, like
Oh,
had like this great reputation until he didn't, until someone spoke up.
okay.
So having this guy is apparently going to be loosely portrayed on this DJ, where it's like now he's with a young boy. It's like, what is Spike in for? And what colony do
Oh,
they come from?
no.
How do they get these updated supplies? So that's where that village part comes in. So I was, again, slightly annoyed by this movie, but this absolutely insane, bizarre ending has me thinking, what the hell am I going to see in January?
So you need to see it through.
Yeah.
You need to see what
So
happened.
I'm not rating it on any boats
Okay.
right now
That's fine.
because of that. I'm counting this and then Bone Temple as one movie,
Okay.
because that's clearly where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And it just opened up a whole box of. So all of this was like, I think your village theory is correct. Like, I think that the people on that island, they're doing it on purpose. They don't want any outside contact.
Right.
They're doing it to keep themselves safe.
Yes.
And I think this dude, Jimmy's he's got some other kind of crazy faction. We know Cillian Murphy is credited on Bone Temple. So is Jim going to be back? Is there going to be, there's a whole, what are you thinking of with this whole world opening up? It's about to.
Wow.
It has to. Like, so I think we're going to get Jimmy's story next, and then it'll probably finish off with.
See, I don't want Jimmy's story. Leave Jimmy out. See, you know what I thought? Did you see the advertising for 28 years later? You know that like really thin, messed up,
Yeah.
rage virus looking guy? I'm like, there he is. There's Jim.
It's not Jim.
Damn it.
So Jim's.
Doesn't it look like Jim?
It does. I mean, that's what the whole internet was speculating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
And Danny
How
Boyle's like,
did I do?
yeah.
I avoided that.
Danny Boyle's like, it's not him.
Damn it. It looked like him.
Because he's I mean, I don't know if it's going to be in flashbacks,
Okay.
but
He's in the
he's
boat.
billed on Bone Temple.
All right, so I have to trust then. I just have to trust that Danny Boyle, like, trust in Danny, trust in Alex Garland's writing.
Yeah.
I don't think Cillian Murphy would be in something if it sucked.
No.
He's good enough to read a script and say, Danny, you're out of your effing mind here.
Yeah.
I'm not. Or say, it's a genius,
Yeah.
bloke. Like, you know.
And I'm still just like blown away. I'm
Wow.
like, I have no idea. Like, you see the tone of that movie, and you know your mom has cancer. It's dark, it's sad.
Yes.
Then we'll save some other stuff, and then by the end, it's like, is this? How is this good? Like, how's this possibly going to end? He's stuck in a corner, and then the most stereotypical, I mean,
Euro pop.
Euro trash type thugs come out in their tracksuits and like, all right, man, if we have a go, and just it just even the choice of music change it like
Oh my.
the whole tone completely changes. And then the cross he's gripping, he's wearing around his neck, but it's upside down. So
Because his dad was a reverend who
yeah,
thought the rapture was coming. And
yeah. So we're gonna get more of his story, and
oof.
um, and then I'm like, and that's where I'm like, well, they're wearing fresh looking clothes, so there's got to be some kind of supply, like maybe they're like
Is
scavengers.
Voldemort okay?
I'm not gonna tell you anything else about Voldemort.
Damn it.
He is built on Bone Temple, though.
He's billed?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Not that he's actually, it's funny. The first thing I saw Ralph Fiennes in was Red Dragon. He was terrifying in that.
I always forget everything that he's in.
Because he's in so much.
Yeah,
And he's a fantastic actor.
yeah.
Like The Menu. Did you see The Menu?
I love the men.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But no, I call him Voldemort because I just want people to know, like, I know that yes, he's done way, way, way more than Voldemort. And actually, the first time I saw him was Red Dragon. He was terrifying. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, shout out to Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah,
We'd love you on the show.
You're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good dude.
So yeah, definitely not what you were expecting.
No,
Yeah,
I wasn't figured Justice League of factions.
I couldn't believe it when you're just like it went out. I'm like, the whole everything you just watched
Yep.
is just leading up to a bridge.
Mhm.
There's no ending.
Right.
It's a bridge to the rest of the story.
Damn.
So we have our secluded island people,
Mhm.
and now we have Jimmy and company, and we have obviously Ralph Fiennes is Dr. Larson, Bone Temple stuff.
We've taken people on quite the journey. I don't
Yeah.
want to leave. I'm glad. If people were waiting for this episode, I'm excited for them to see my reaction
Yeah.
and hear about it. But we probably should wrap up. We've been a little long, so I just want to, before we get to that point, are you looking forward to the Bone Temple?
Yeah, even with all of like the complaints that I have about it,
Yes.
it's like I'm ready. It's like I have to see it through.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it because the people behind it, I mean, there's no reason to not trust that they know what they're doing.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
Normally, if this was anybody else, if this was like,
If it wasn't Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, I would be like, yeah, no, this is stupid. This is a stupid cash grab.
right.
But instead, we get this bizarre ending that's going to go into who knows. So
And they know how, like, the whole movie before it, 28 years later, like, you could literally cut the tension with a knife. Like, that's how it's just masterful filmmaking, cinematography. You live it in the world.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yes, the alpha thing's weird, the baby thing's weird, but you take all that stuff away and it's like, it's masterful filmmaking. So I agree with you in that normally, if this were anybody else, if they Michael Bay'd me like that, I would be, I would not, I wouldn't even watch the second one.
I don't think so. I mean, it's just bizarre. And yeah. Just knowing that you didn't see it in theaters, being like that far into it and being like, and this has been a very controversial ending. So as we're closing this episode, if you've seen it, what do you think about the ending? What do you think's going to happen next? Let's get some people's thoughts. We'll follow it up again right before the Bone Temple comes out. We'll try and do some, like, this is going to be big. I want to try and make predictions and let's try and guess and see where it goes. Ed, I think you did a good, I think you came pretty close. And I think that the village part is going to come into play. I think that's definitely a thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
No, we will do with 28. We'll have some fun videos leading up to it. And
Yeah.
on January, there's not much to talk about. We've just gone through the gauntlet
We
of
gotta
Christmas,
talk about your
man.
fucking birthday.
Yeah, right. Who the hell wants to do that?
Hey, you're 40.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. You'll already be there by then.
I will.
But no, this was fun, Joe. I'm glad. I'm glad I came close. Whether I did or not, it was an exciting twist to happen to me.
Yeah.
Because like I finally peeled away to see this movie. Finally, and it just came short.
And the theater loses power with 15 minutes to go.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So on that note, we did not lose power. We will close this episode properly. Follow us at Red River Horror. Subscribe, like, leave a review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We could use it. We love it. We'd love you for it. We might even give you some stuff. If you want, if you're interested, just email us at redriverhorror@gmail.com and say, hey, look, and show us a screenshot if you subscribed or left a comment, and maybe we'll send you some fun swag. But other than that, I'm Eddie Cayazzo, and thanks so much for tuning in. Joe, I'll let you close it out.
And I'm your host, Joe Zakreski. This has been episode number 117 of the Red River Horror Podcast. And remember, as always, to keep traveling those channels of fear.
So when I read the screenplay that Alex sent, there were these characters that appeared at the end of the film called the Jimmies, and it is shocking. It returns you to the fact that this is a horror film, but not in the way you might be expecting. They go on to dominate the second film. I thought this is the most original piece of writing I've seen since Clockwork Orange. That's what I thought. That's honestly what I thought.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Red River Horror Podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, and share. For great written horror content, go to redriverhorror.com. On Spotify or Apple Music, leave us a comment. Or if you have a thought about the show, just email redriverhorror@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and as always, thank you for following those channels of fear.